Well, I did bring someone. I also texted someone just in case this was a murder podcast and we were the subjects.
We're being...
Hold on, there's someone at the door.
This is not... Before you come for me about the audio, about the quality of the video, just know there's only one of me, and I'm working on improving it every single time. We were also in Cancun using cheap little mics, so had to work with what we had. And if you'd like more details on the episode and why certain things were blurred out, check out my broadcast channel on Instagram, which I'll post the handle up here on the screen. Give me a follow, check out the channel, and get some insight on the episode. I hope you enjoyed this mini episode. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you guys back in the new year. Welcome to Unshut, where nothing is off the table. Keeping quiet and holding back is no longer an option. I am your host, Mo. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to Stranger Danger in Cancun. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. A little nervous, but I'm good.
No shit, I'm super nervous too.
But thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, you're not the only one. And it's always so funny asking random people like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast and come to my room? Right? Like you're in Cancun.
Well, I did bring someone. I also texted someone just in case this was a murder podcast and we were the subjects. I did cover my bases.
I'm glad we're on the same wavelength because I'm doing one in LA and I'm doing one in London. And I've been giving everyone my location too. I'm like, just in case I meet someone random. I mean, it would make a great fucking story,
I mean, exactly, right?
But that's not how I want my story to end. So.
Me neither.
Well, tell everyone your name. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Claudia. Hey.
Where are you coming from?
So I'm originally from New York City, actually, and Long Island for high school. And then we moved to Vermont about 3 years ago. And our first vacation ever was Mexico. So we have kind of a soft spot for Mexico and never been to Cancun. So we decided to come down. My birthday is next week.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Who brought up Cancun? Whose idea was it?
So to be totally honest, I'm a very nervous person. I'm a very nervous person. I'm a very nervous flyer. I love to travel. I love to see the world. But then COVID happened. Everything shut down. And because of that, I kind of got more anxious. We actually have tickets to go to Asia, which I haven't been able to do because I'm too scared. So I figure if I start by shorter flights and kind of getting reintegrated into travel, that was a good plan. And Mexico, again, it's always been like a nice place for us. So
absolutely. You're like, I'm not trying to get fucking COVID 2.0 here.
Exactly.
Where do you feel like your anxiety started from? Like, because I know for me, like my anxiety comes from having such a fast paced childhood. Like it was so fucking chaotic, which I've talked a little bit about that in other episodes. I feel like people that are very introverted and anxious, they typically have very extroverted jobs. And people usually think like, oh my gosh, like you're the most extroverted person. But really, I'm trying to be cooped up. I need to take so much time after I'm overstimulated with people. But mine definitely comes from my childhood being chaotic. What's yours?
I think that's a good answer. I think that's I think that's a fair answer. I think I was hello public.
Yes, it's okay.
I think chaotic is a good word to describe it. I think when you feel somewhat lost from birth, you tend to internalize a lot of things. So that's, I think, how I came about to anxiety and OCD and the whole 9 yards of crazy person. Yeah.
There's been so many people in my circle who are like, anxiety is not really even a thing. And it's like, you're not in my fucking head. You don't get it. What goes through your mind when you're about to make a big travel? Like, what are the things that run through your head? Get as dark as you have to. Let's be open and honest.
I mean, I have a lot of nightmares. There's a lot of, and it's so hard because I do have to fly home. So I'd like to not have to focus on the scary parts because I still have to get home. But there's a lot of things that can happen in planes and cars and travel and taxis and the whole 9 yards.
So I think it's safe to say you weren't a fan of Final Destination.
Never seen it.
Oh, fuck. You don't want to.
Okay, I'll pass. You try to skip movies where the promo is too scary and I'm like, nope, I'm out. But yeah, so for me, it's a lot of control aspects come up. Like I have about 17 lists before I leave the house for like a trip. I think there were 7 lists. So I keep everything very, very organized. So I have control over it. I started packing, I don't know, probably a month ago. Again, control issues.
Well, okay. Do you think that comes from not being in control for a big part of your life?
Yes.
That's honestly the most honest you can get about things. We're being
Hold on, there's someone at the door.
This is not.
It is. It's going to turn into. It's going to turn into a murder podcast.
This is worse. This is worse than being cock-blocked. Okay. Hello.
Hola.
Hola. Ahorita no podemos. Estamos ocupados.
¿Quiere que yo regrese?
Sí, como unos 45 minutos, por favor.
45, como a las 9.
Sí, estaría bien.
Bueno.
Muchas gracias. All right, it was just housekeeping. We're not being murdered. I'm not gonna lie, my heart dropped because I'm like, they're gonna think I set them up for some scary shit. And not only are we sitting here talking about anxiety,
murder podcast. There you go. That's it.
The timing of that could have been better. I didn't set that up, you guys. So, but let's go back to talk about that control. It's interesting because of my childhood being so chaotic and very fast paced. When I am not in control of something, when something's out of my control, the way I panic is completely irrational and I see it, but it's so fucking true.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you can see it. I can see it. But at the same time, I can't stop it. And I think one of the reasons flying scares me among the top things is because I don't know how to fly a plane. Like, I know how to drive a car, so it's a little bit more calming, but I have no idea how a plane flies. It's very out of control.
When was the last time prior to Mexico that you flew?
We were in Belize last year, and then we were in Mexico same year.
So, well, I mean, I feel like that speaks, volumes of the fact that you may not think you're so much in control of it, but you're still able to overcome it and still do things. I feel like that's amazing.
We used to travel pretty frequently to Europe and Asia. And so I've stayed in North America. So to me, that feels restrictive because I do really want to see the world. And for us, we always said we'd never go to the same place twice. So to be in Mexico twice in 2 years is, I guess, kind of the same place twice. So yeah.
Do you feel like you're getting closer and closer to that goal though?
Yeah. And I think even getting on the plane and coming here, and I said afterwards, I was like, now that I've flown, I feel better about flying again. It can't be too big of a stretch in time. Like the fact that it was 18 months of COVID, it was too long to let me simmer in my own brain. And you should never be in my brain for that long.
I saw that with certain relatives as well, where they were so sensitive to being on flights or even being in big groups of people, but then COVID did not do them any favor. It only set them back a little bit more. But I think it's awesome that you're still here in Cancun though. I think that's amazing.
I'm trying, and we used to go to concerts and Broadway shows, and I haven't been in a theater since COVID.
Wow.
We actually saw Moulin Rouge the night that I think the COVID became a thing in the States, and that was the last show we saw. So that's a little sad. But I have gone to outdoor shows, so I'm trying. I'm working my way forward.
Yeah, I feel like as long as you're doing something about it, I feel like you're entitled to be as big of a pain in the ass that you want to be. It's one thing to let fear take over, but then it starts to really take over, and then you're not progressively doing anything. And so I feel like the fact that you're taking your steps into, getting your toes a little wet, I feel like that, to me, that's more than most people are fucking doing. So
I am trying. I never wanted my anxiety to rule my life, and it's hard. I'm in therapy, I'm on drugs, it's hard, but I kind of made a promise to myself early on, you are not going to let this be your defining thing.
At what point in your life did you realize oh, I should see therapy because I think I have anxiety?
I was kind of acutely aware of it in high school, but didn't know what to do about it. Kind of always wanted therapy, but I didn't really know how to approach that with my parents or how to approach that in general. And then in college, I was living alone my senior year, and I had a legitimate panic attack and went to the hospital, as 20-year-olds do when they don't know anything about insurance and money.
Which is a whole nother level of fucking anxiety.
Exactly. And he was like, yeah, you're having a panic attack, you're anxious. And I was and I always, when I came to school, I was I'd have friends who would stress out over tests, and I was like, I'm not anxious. I'm not a stressed person. That's not what I do. And he was like, no, this is different level of anxiety. And that was okay, I need to get help because this can't happen again. It's too scary.
No, and it's interesting how it really does pile on, and it really does. It's like that straw. What's that saying? The straw that broke the camel's back?
Yes.
You get to a point where you're you may not have acknowledged all the little bits and pieces that were being piled on until like you said, you end up in the hospital and you're pretty much fucked.
And then, of course, you meet with a psychiatrist and they start asking you questions and they're like, has anyone ever told you you have OCD? And it's like, oh, wait, other people don't feel this way all the time? And you're like, oh, wait, that's just me? Oh, weird. Okay, cool.
Which is fascinating because I started therapy for a completely different reason. Like I started therapy for like money was starting to really become a big, like it brought so much anxiety to my life and I never realized why. I mean, I grew up broke, immigrant from Guatemala. I was selling food on the side of the streets. And so when I finally came into a point where I started to make really good money, I was like a hoarder. I was so stressed out. I would literally go to the store and buy like 5 deodorants when I only needed one. And so I went to therapy for a completely different thing. But going to therapy, you do start to realize that there were so many patterns that you had been doing. But that's why I think talking to people, even talking with strangers, is so healthy for you because you learn more about you when releasing things out loud.
I completely agree. And it's also why I want to see the world. I do like talking to people and meeting new people and hearing their life stories because people are fascinating.
What do you do for work?
What do I do for work? I work for, I do research and programming. So I work specifically with.
Can we go ahead and disclaimer to the camera? We do not know each other.
We do not know each other.
We actually just started following each other on Instagram like what, maybe 30 minutes ago?
About that, yeah.
I think even in a couple of my other episodes, so many people think like, oh, well, he had this artist on, choreographer, he probably knew them. And so now I'm hearing you talk about your job. I'm like, people are going to think like maybe our networks cross paths. Maybe we've done
Never,
work.
ever.
Never. We actually don't even know any mutual friends. So, well, maybe, I don't know. But how long have you been doing that?
15 years?
Nice.
Long time.
If this was the one and only podcast you ever did in your life, and it's going to be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and everywhere for the rest of our lives,
Okay.
someone listening to it, what would you want them to hear?
Be kind. Be
Yeah.
kind to everybody. Get to know someone before judging an opinion.
Do you feel like that's been done to you?
I think that's been done to everybody.
Yeah.
To be fair. I don't think I'm special there, but I do think society is very judgmental. I think that people are more than the way they vote or more than their grades. They're more than the way they vote. They're more interesting than that.
I appreciate that because it's interesting. That is exactly why I had even started Stranger Danger as well, was because it doesn't matter who you vote for. It doesn't matter what religion. It doesn't matter what culture. I feel like we forget to see what's beyond those things. We don't need to live the same lifestyle. We don't need to vote the same. We don't need to think so much alike. But we can still sit and have a cool conversation, still laugh, still find things in common outside of what those bullets are in our life.
Absolutely. I mean, people are, at the core of things, people are the same. You know, they want to be happy and they want their families to be happy. And that's, and how you get there might be different.
What are some of your favorite TV shows? What's the most random TV show on your list?
So this is very, very sad. And I apologize for this. But
I love it.
So we are huge Survivor fans. We love Survivor.
Yes.
And we recently started watching Australian Survivor. And that took me down an Australian rabbit hole. I like competition reality.
You guys, I think I met my fucking soulmate in a woman version. I'm cheeking because I am like, okay, let's wrap this shit up quickly so I can go tell Corey and my mother-in-law all about this. Because same.
Which is your favorite?
I love MTV's The Challenge. You're a Survivor fan,
Yes.
Which so am I. Have you ever thought that the Australian Survivor, they're just so competitive?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's like American Survivor on steroids. I mean,
Yes.
like every challenge, like an American challenge would be like, run a quarter mile. And the Australians like, run a quarter mile, then bike 7 miles, and then hike up a mountain. And you're like,
Yes.
okay, cool.
1000%. And it was the same way for me too with like some of the competitors on the challenge. The Australian version, the women also, they made the men look like sissies. Like they were the most competitive, they were the most brutal. I'm like,
those wrestling challenges,
yes,
like they're full on like wrestling. Yeah, it's massive. It's crazy.
Yeah, I love it because that's also one of the conversations I used to have with my mother-in-law. I still have them with her about how Survivor is great and she loves that too. But she's like, just don't mess with the Survivor Australia. They do not fuck around.
No, they do not. It's awesome. Fan this season of Amazing Race back to like old school Amazing Race. It's awesome.
I am a. This is so awesome. I'm telling you, people are gonna think we
Can we
set
go on
this
like a
up.
four-person Amazing Race team?
And actually, last night, which you might go on another rabbit hole after this one, I found a Spanish version here in the hotel last night. It was called Adrenalina. Legit, it was so good. It's a Mexican challenge type of show.
I don't speak Spanish, but I feel like I'll still watch and I'll learn.
I had it on mute because I was watching TikTok this whole time.
That's awesome.
But it was so good. See, and again, this is why I'm rooting for these episodes, because I want people to see you never know what you're going to learn from someone, what you'll have in common if you don't talk to people. What would you say is the worst?
This season of Love is Blind was a massive letdown.
One, I agree with that 100%.
And I
So
was so excited too.
me too, because I love the concept. I think it's such a, I mean, clearly here we are meeting each other on the podcast.
Right, there you go. This
You
is
know?
Love is Blind.
Exactly. I'm like, they said no, and then they kissed, and then they were mad at each other after the show. I'm like, it just didn't make sense. I'm like,
It was all super weird and just nobody seemed like they had vetted these contestants at all. Like two of them knew each other. I don't know. There was a lot going on.
a lot going on. MTV fan or VH1 fan when you were younger?
We got really, really into the VH1 celeb reality for a while.
I wanted to apply for the Real World so bad.
You would have been great on the Real World.
I would have loved it, and I actually went through a phase of my life where like it's all I wanted to do. And then I actually, fun fact, which none of my listeners know this, so this is just awesome. I had actually been considered to be casted on back in like 2009. I want to say it was I was a couple of years right out of high school, but I needed a green card. And I didn't have it at the time, and they needed proof that I had submitted at least the application to have an alien number, to have a visa, and to have a passport to be able to continue on with the process. Yeah, that was the biggest letdown. So I wasn't able to pursue
You would have
it,
been
and
good on the Real World.
I feel like I would have had a blast.
I think you would.
So thank you. So if you could bring back an old show that is no longer on air, which one would it be?
I'm bringing back a show.
It's in your hands. Let's say this episode gets to the hands of someone on MTV and they're like, let's take her up on that.
So many
The
options.
revival of Dun Dun Dun.
I mean, now that we're talking about it, I'm like, wait, why is the Real World not on? We should bring back
Right.
the Real World.
I'll second that.
I think that seems, yeah.
Could you imagine we start this petition? You heard it here first, people.
What was the MTV show with the dance people? Remember, it was like group dances.
America's Best Dance Crew.
That is America's Best
Yeah.
Dance Crew. We could bring that back too. That was
Yeah,
fun.
you guys, we'll listen. If you stop traveling, I'll stop traveling, and we'll just
We'll just hang out and chat with people.
we'll coop up in the East Coast and cozy up.
Come to the East Coast.
Yeah, I love Greenwich. I love New York City. I love all of it. I'm telling you, people are going to start to think that I'm setting these up and they're not real, but
You're just finding the right people at the right places.
I know. This was so much fun.
This was fun.
Nice to meet
Thank you so much for inviting me on.